thank all the speakers, partners, guests, and media for attending today's event, which is a part of a nationwide day of action calling on President Biden to cut methane pollution from oil and gas operations in public health and the climate. My name is Patrice Tomcik, and I'm the Senior National Field Manager for Moms Clean Air Force, a community of over 1 million moms and dads united to protect children's health from air pollution and climate change. Methane, the main component of natural gas, is a potent greenhouse gas. It's accelerating climate change, and the oil and gas operations that emits climate warming methane, along with harmful volatile organic compounds such as benzene, asthma attacks, lung development, increase the risk of cancer. In Pennsylvania, over 2,000 children attend school near oil and gas operations that puts their health at risk. My children attend the Mars Area School District, where there are gas wells and a vast spiderweb network of pipelines. The closest wells that have been tracked are about a half mile away. That puts the health of 3,200 students at risk. In my mind, needs strong methane protections now. To slow the rate of change and to help clean up children's health. From the state, the Environmental Protection Agency quickly released its draft methane rule so we can offer public comment. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce our first speaker, and it is State Representative Sarah Inamorata, and she is from District 21. Sarah?
Yes, thank you. We're going to have to use our outside voices, right? So thank you all for gathering here. This is power, and as a legislator, I'm not able to do my job, but for the stories and voices of people across this Commonwealth. So thank you. But I'm here today alongside everyone here to declare that our neighbors cannot afford the status quo regarding oil and gas regulations any longer. We need the EPA to publish the regulations that will cut methane emissions and ensure that loopholes in the initial draft are closed. Right now here, we are standing in a region with the highest density of carbon emissions in the country, as well as one of the top methane emitters in the entire world. Southwestern Pennsylvania, despite recent improvements, still ranks above some of the worst air quality in the nation. Our region is fueling the global climate crisis. So we have an outsized responsibility to do more for the people of this Commonwealth and the people of the world. During my time in the legislature, I've watched the oil and gas industry pour money into political PACs and work consistently to roll back regulations that protect our communities and protect our health. It's our opportunity, not in just Southwestern, the nation, to demand more from an industry that has a history of privatizing the profits from our natural resources and socializing health, safety, and economic risks. Regulating methane emissions is one of the best public policies that protect the health of children and families, help stay within the pyramid accord of 1.5 degrees of global warming, as well as boost our local economies. Regulations will require industry to invest back in vital infrastructure our region relies on, spurring technological advancements and creating thousands of high-quality, good-paying union jobs for Pennsylvanians. The climate crisis is a visible and tangible threat that has already had irreversible effects on our region and our world. As leaders, it is our responsibility to not stop at just enhancing regulations, but to help provide resources and tools to help our communities adapt and respond to the increasingly dangerous weather events caused by the climate crisis and help rebuild local economies devastated by boom and bust industries. The climate catastrophes, they aren't just about failing infrastructure or vacant buildings, they are about leaders failing people. So the time to act on climate change measures is now. It's not tomorrow, it's not a month from now, it's not a year from now, it is right now. And that's why we are here today, to call on President Biden and the EPA to take immediate action from the oil and gas industry, because our communities, our families, and our children cannot wait any longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Innamorato, and thank you for being such a leader to protect your constituents as well as Pennsylvanians. Next, I'd like to introduce Gillian Graber, Executive Director for Protect Penn-Trafford. Gillian?
My name is Gillian Graber, and as Patrice said, I'm Executive Director of Protect PT, which stands for Penn-Trafford. We're a grassroots nonprofit working to ensure the safety, security, and quality of life for people in Westmoreland and Allegheny counties. We do this by engaging in advocacy and education to protect our economic, environmental, and legal rights as residents as it pertains to oil and gas infrastructure. In 9 years of doing this job, which started in my living room after 2 well pads were proposed in my community in late 2014, I have learned that frontline communities are woefully unprepared for new oil and gas infrastructure. Local governments get new applications for new local zoning boards have 45 days to look over documents and prepare questions, most of which are dodged by skillfully crafted rhetoric by high-paid attorneys for the industry. When we go to local meetings and speak up, the industry calls us tree hugger, busybody, or ninny nanny, and complains to local judges about us helping our neighbors. I call this doing my job. It doesn't get any better at the state level. In my town, there are 4 proposed well pads within a mile of a local elementary school. And over the last 9 years, I've seen 12 new well pads that have the capacity to hold 20 wells each. And absent state rules in Pennsylvania that would protect us from oil and gas pollution from existing sources, which we have a graphic of here right here. It is incumbent on the next governor and his administration to enact the state implementation plan for the methane rule currently being developed by the EPA. Pennsylvania, at all levels of executive and judiciary branches, has shown us to date that they care more about the rights of large corporations than they do about the constitutional rights to clean air and water and the health of our children. While we see more studies come out every single day highlighting the human health impacts of emissions, we also see a huge volume of new proposals for oil and gas expansion near our schools, daycares, homes, and churches. The landscape tens of thousands of smaller oil and gas wells with leak-prone equipment that dot the landscape, which presently do not go under any sort of repair, regular leak detection and repair. This is why we need the EPA to step in and promulgate a rule for existing sources of oil and gas pollution. The proposed rule by EPA would cut methane pollution and other harmful chemicals that the lungs in our community breathe every single day. We need the federal government to act immediately to move forward with its methane pollution rule. Not only will this rule help us breathe easier as frontline communities, it is one action the Biden administration can take to make good on their promise of climate action. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian Graber, for your years of advocacy and protecting communities. Next, I'd like to introduce Shannon Smith, Executive Director for Fact Tracker. Shannon?
Thank you. I'm Shannon Smith, Executive Director of Fact Tracker Alliance, a nonprofit organization that studies and maps issues related to unconventional oil and gas. As in many other states, oil and gas operations significantly contribute to Pennsylvania's pollution problem. Pennsylvania alone has over 100,000 oil and gas facilities, and these facilities release the potent greenhouse gas methane, which is the primary component of fracked gas. The climate change we're experiencing today in the form of record floods, deadly storms, and unbearable heat is a result of this. Each year, fossil fuel companies leak or deliberately vent hundreds of methane into the atmosphere during oil and gas operations. Methane emissions occur during all phases, oil, drilling, and even after a well has ceased production. The oil and gas industry, the nation's largest methane polluter. We need to rein in the rampant pollution from the oil and gas buildout that has already occurred and prevent further extraction from happening. According to the International Energy Agency, reducing methane emissions is one of the most cost-effective and impactful actions that governments can take to achieve global climate goals. The US EPA proposed a rule to limit methane and other pollution from existing oil and gas facilities. We're here today to call on President Biden to promptly and formally publish this proposed rule and to quickly and dramatically cut methane pollution from the oil and gas industry. I want to be clear in that it is impossible to eliminate all methane emissions from oil and gas operations, yet it is crucial that we take the following steps to significantly reduce emissions. First, the agency's supplemental rule should rein in smaller, low-producing wells with leak-prone equipment by instituting a protocol of regular leak detection and repair for these hundreds of thousands of wells, many of which are in Pennsylvania. In fact, low-producing wells are responsible for more than half of the methane pollution from oil and gas sources in Pennsylvania, and all wells, regardless of production levels, should require routine inspections. The rule should eliminate the provision that allows operators to reduce the frequency of inspections based on the results of previous inspections. Research does not show that the quantity of leaking components from oil and gas sources indicates or predicts the frequency or quantity of future leaks. Finally, the rule will be further strengthened by replacing outdated equipment, installing better monitoring, eliminating routine flares, and providing transparent and independently verifiable data.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Shannon. Thanks to Tracker for all the data that is so important for communities to understand how oil and gas is impacting them. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Deborah Gentile.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm Dr. Deborah Gentile. I'm a pediatric allergy and asthma specialist, and for the past 10 years, I've been doing a lot of work looking at the impact of the high levels of air pollution in our area. And it's actually led to a 2 to 3 times increase in the asthma rate among children. We also know that high elevations of air pollution correlate with increased asthma attacks even among adults. And that's not the end of the story with this. Air pollution has multiple health effects: heart disease, stroke, cancer, birth prematurity, all types of problems. And we all know people who are vulnerable to these effects. Global warming is an international crisis. The World Health Organization actually has declared it the #1 threat to human health. And we really need to act now. You heard how this is a hotbed. I see every day patients who are impacted by these problems. As you heard earlier, the time for this rule is now. The oil and gas industry releases climate change and methane pollution, smog-causing volatile organic compounds known as VOCs, and known carcinogens like benzene. requiring simple technology upgrades and increased air monitoring at well sites, as well as compressor stations, will address the current climate crisis, decrease our smog pollution, and reduce the significant cancer risks facing our Pennsylvania residents who live near these sites. Pennsylvania has more residents than any other state who are exposed to increased cancer risk caused by the oil and gas industry. A new study by the Clean Air Task Force concluded that 3.3 million Pennsylvanians will be exposed to a higher cancer risk in 2023, and that risk is caused by hazardous air pollutant emissions from oil and gas industry, mostly concentrated in southwestern Pennsylvania. This federal standard is a unique opportunity to address public health issues, including those that impact children. VOCs, again, react with heat in the atmosphere. They cause asthma-causing ground level pollution, and that can trigger asthma attacks. Also, extreme heat causes the formation of ground level ozone systems, particularly in communities with decreased vegetation and tree coverage. With this role, we can tackle the greenhouse effect and reduce the smog pollution formed in extreme heat, in addition to reducing the alarming cancer risk previously mentioned. Our legislature needs to establish a standard for methane and VOC pollution emitted by the gas industry. We need to propose and finalize a strong rule that addresses all wells and compressor stations and does not exempt certain so-called low-producing wells assumed to create less air pollution. And we need this now because people are suffering now. Thank you.
Thank you, Al, for all your work and research in protecting children's health. In closing, we want to urge the Environmental and Protection Agency to promptly release its draft methane rule. Communities need strong, comprehensive rules that include provisions for regular leak detection and repair at smaller wells with leak-prone equipment. Low-producing wells make up nearly 90% of all wells in Pennsylvania, and over 15% of Pennsylvanians live within a mile of an active oil and gas well. Every child has the right to breathe clean air and the right to a stable climate. I want to thank all the speakers, partners, guests, and media for attending today's event. Thank you so much.
This is great. Okay. Move forward, let's shift this way a little bit. Yeah. There you go. Okay. Great. Great back. It's up and side. I can play. There we go. Perfect. Guys, get your picture. Get your picture. Everybody look at this guy here. Everybody look at him. Everybody look at her.
Do you yeah. Everyone's gonna forget my iPad. Patrice, any other photos? Russ, any other photos we might want?
Or exactly. You're getting speakers looking like they're talking at like thing. It just gets like. I do, but I can't pick it up.